This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'll call the Board of Water Wastewater Commissioners meeting agenda to order for Wednesday, April 28th, 2021 at 1 o'clock. First order of business is the consent agenda for the minutes for March 4th, 2021, March 19th, 2021, and April 8th, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Alan. We have a motion. Is there a second? I'll take a vote by roll call. Alan?
Second.
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
And it's an aye for myself. Thank you. We have no abatements. We do have the water rules and regulations. Dan, the rules and regulations, is that going to take a while, do you know?
Yeah, as far as the public hearing, and one of the things that we want to do is verify with legal. We did talk to the clerk's office today, and one thing we want to just verify is what the publishing requirements are for the regulations, whether we have to publish just the amendments, and strike through for removals, and with the wastewater regulations, if we have to publish the whole document in the paper. So once we get that information, I believe we have to publish it for 15 days at the clerk's office before we can hold the public hearing. So if the board is comfortable with the regulations, what I'd be looking to do is get your blessing to move forward with the advertising process. And once we get a better handle on what, if we have to publish the entire regulations, we'll probably have to print a book and an insert. So depending on the newspapers' ability to support that in a timely fashion will kind of guide the date.
All right. Any questions about the rules and regulations? Alan, Judith?
No, I'm all set to move ahead. The only thing I reserve is the rates, and we need to address whether they cover everything. So as it stands now, I'm good on the rules.
Okay. Judith?
The same.
Okay. Let's move on to the new business, Coastal Resilience Grant Project. I see we have a special guest star, Russ, here with us for the call. So thank you, Russ.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good afternoon.
And what I'm going to do now, if I can for a moment, is just share my screen so we have, or Russ, I don't know if you want to share yours. I did put together a quick map for the packet that the board members have, so I can share that.
I can absolutely, Dan. It just takes a second for my Google Earth to pop up. Did you just want to show a location of the water main, what we're looking to do?
Yeah, yep. So
yeah, if you give me another moment here, I'm happy to share my screen.
So while Russ is pulling that up, if I can just give the board kind of a background as to how this project came up. With the capital plan, pandemic, tight budgets, things like that, Russ and I were discussing potential funding options for other projects. We have our capital plan, and that covers a lot of the major capital infrastructure projects we have to handle. But there is, I don't like to use the term wish list because it implies it's not a need, but these are more wish list projects. The one that we're going to be discussing today on Lothrop Ave isn't in our capital plan, but it is one of those things that we should be considering upgrading, and would be a great improvement in redundancy in our water system. So this is the first of hopefully multiple opportunities we'll be able to bring back, but really wanted to try to bring grants and other funding opportunities more into the mix as financing and budgets become tighter and tighter. I guess, Russ, if you're good.
Yep, I am. So hopefully this works here. Share. Let me know if everybody can see Google Earth.
I got it.
Okay, so here is Lothrop Ave. If I zoom out a little bit, just so everybody has their orientation, Great Western Road is to the north. Lothrop Ave is this yellow line coming down here. And Dan, if I understand correctly, you mentioned that you had already replaced a section of water main that's on the south side of this landmass here.
Yep, that's correct.
And as we travel north, you can even see this. You can see this line here running next to the bridge.
Yep.
Let me zoom in a little bit. So this line right here, this is an above grade water main, and I'll zoom us down to street view. We could get a better look at it. So here's the water main right here. You can see it. It comes through the salt marsh over this estuary, and then continues above grade through the salt marsh. So one of the things that this grant that we're going after, GHD does a lot of grant applications for all sorts of different projects. So we always, we have an idea of what sort of funding mechanisms are out there. This particular grant is called the Coastal Resiliency Program. It's offered by the Massachusetts Office of Coastal Zone Management, who we have an excellent relationship with. And what this grant targets to do is to improve upon vulnerable infrastructure. And how they define vulnerable is infrastructure that's within a flood zone, within the wave action, within the coastal areas. So obviously, this being above grade water main in a salt marsh, there is some concern here for some impacts to this water main. If we have sea level rise, massive storm surge, flooding, things like that. So real quick, I'll jump out of Google Earth and zoom out a little bit and turn the flood zones on. And you can see we're well within the flood zone, which is a screen area right here. So talking with Dan, I said, there's, and the other thing this grant program tries to do is to restore salt marshes. So by removing this water main from the above grade, you can there and restore the salt marsh that it's running through. So it's my opinion that this would be a very competitive project with the grant funding. Grants are never a guarantee, but I typically would not recommend going through this process if I didn't think it would stand a high chance for being awarded. So that was the discussion I had with Dan, and then we said, yep, looks like a good project. I submitted to Dan, and Dan, I don't know if you shared with the board a breakdown of the budget, but basically it's a 25% match that the town has to come up with through either cash or in-kind services. So for this whole design, now this project, we're going to be looking to directional drill it underneath, so it does require some permitting, notice of intent, because we are altering for the better, but we're still altering a wetland area. So there is some permitting, so it's about an $80,000 or $90,000 total effort. But when you apply the grant funding and the in-kind funding, the only cash match that the Harwich Water Department needs to come up with is about $12,000. And I think, Dan, I don't know if you have that budget sheet or if you wanted to email that to the commissioners that talks about it. So yeah, we can stop sharing my screen here. Did we do that already? There you go.
I'm trying to share mine. I don't know if you guys can see that or not.
Yeah, I can see it.
Great.
Yeah, and this is just the way that this is the budget template that you have to fill out for the actual grant application. It's the way they put it together. But it just runs down. We're going to do an existing conditions plan, kickoff meeting, permit level design, the permitting, final design. The final design includes cost estimates, full technical and front end specification. We've gone through with Harwich's town attorney, so we have all the front end documents squared away as far as the legal language. So it looks like a great opportunity.
Yeah, I think to build on that, Russ, what we're looking at right now, if I'm not mistaken, is this. Yeah, so this takes us through permitting and design, and Russ and I discussed about how this whole process works, and would be doing a grant application to complete the survey and the design work, and then would be pursuing, correct me if I'm wrong, a second grant application for construction funds.
Correct. These can fund, this Coastal Resiliency Program can fund up to $2 million for a single project. Now, to get that much money, it has to be one heck of a project. But long story short, you can apply for any amount, just as long as it doesn't exceed 75% of the total cost. So if this is a $500,000 project, next year we'd be ready to submit a grant application for the construction. And if they fund the design, these grants, they usually like to see the project through from start to finish. So that's a good indicator if we're going to get construction funds, is if they fund the design. And we always recommend following up with a construction grant if we get a grant for the design. So with that being said, say this is a $500,000 to $600,000 job, you get a $400,000 or $500,000 grant. You end up, the town ends up paying about $150,000 for, $500,000-$600,000 worth of work. So it's a great mechanism to help preserve your funding.
Well, I think this is a great opportunity, especially for the price of the project and for what our contribution would be, and just to get the pipe out of there over that salt marsh, I think is a fantastic opportunity to take on the grant. Any comments from Alan, Judith?
I just have a, go ahead, Alan.
Go ahead,
No.
go ahead, Judith.
Go ahead.
So I just want to make sure I understand from a coastal resiliency perspective, it's the idea that the pipe would be safer if it were underground?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Thanks.
And we get to restore the salt marsh too. Now, granted, it's not a huge footprint of restoration, but it still takes a big old pipe away from a valuable resource area.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Alan?
In the past, that pipe was, wrapped and hung on the side of that little bridge. And I think if I sound around 98 or 99, it was built like it is with that insulation on it. Is that about when that was done?
What's that? The insulation?
Yeah, putting the pipe the way it is now.
I would have to look at when they actually raised it up above. A big concern of mine too is with it being wrapped and enclosed in a fiberglass insulation ultimately in that salty environment, is we, without cutting the insulation off of the pipe, have no real method of determining the integrity of it.
Well,
Too.
I have to say, I don't know, for the last 10 or 12 years, that's the way I went to North Harwich. Is a dramatic change in that covering, I think when the electric mains were put in to go to the islands, I said, I think that pipe was all reworked at that time because the bridge had some work and it difference when they did the electrical lines. So my concern is like yours as I go by it and think about it, and I wonder if that thing is leaking anywhere. The salt's underneath that covering, where you can't see what's going on, and to do something there, and we may get big surprises. It may be just right that you decided to do that. I think it's a great idea to go underground, and I think at the time it was all about money. That was the cheapest way to go, rather than directional drill. And like I say, for several years, it just hung on the side of the bridge. So I'm on, I'm with you to do this. I think it's a great idea.
I'm looking at the Google Earth. I went back to 1995. I could still see that above grade there. So it's been around at least since 1995.
Yeah. And it's somewhere in there, they redid the bridge. The bridge at that time, that's when the main got changed. So it's been there for a long time, So it's down in the sand and all of that, and you can't see anything. So I think it's a great idea to do that. Good move.
Right.
Dan, down on Lower County Road, did we end up doing that direct drill under that bridge there, or did we hang it?
We directionally drilled. Lower County Road?
Yeah.
That one is under the bridge and insulated. They did propose to directional drill it under the contract. So when we bid Lower County Road project, the spec was put together such that the contractor could either jack the pipe or they could do a directional drill. It was up to the contractor's preference, but they would have to furnish the engineering to do the directional drilling. So when it came time to do that, they elected to put it underneath the bridge in the existing cavity.
So the direct drill that we did do was on Lothrop, but up towards the church.
It
Yeah.
was just south of the location we're talking about. So if you were coming out of the tank,
Okay.
yeah, heading to 28, there's the above grade main over the bridge, and then Gilbert, which is where we started and continued south towards the church.
Right. So to do the direct drill over on that river there, how deep do we go in? Or
That
down?
one, it depends. So there's a pipe deflection, or a certain degree that the pipe can be bent, and depending on how far and deep they need to go, and where the entry pit and exit can be, can have an impact on the depth. Russ, you may be able to add some to that. I want to say the one that we put in down the street was, I think, between over 15 feet at the deepest part.
Yeah, we'll pick out the most logical points for the entrance and excavation pit, and depending on where those are, it may take a different angle going underneath this creek here. Typically, we'll do the survey, measure down the river channel, what the sediment depth is. Now, because this isn't a high navigational purpose, we may not have to go super deep beneath it. We did one across the Thames River down in Groton, I believe, where the sub base is, and because of the heavy navigation, we had to go like 50 feet under the riverbed. We wouldn't have to do that for this sort of an application. Obviously, we want to keep it as shallow as we can, because the deeper you go, the harder it is to keep control. But the technology is so good nowadays. We may take a different angle and just totally bypass going around this. We have to see where the start and stop point is. I see that one house just to the north of it. I'm sure that has a connection. So somewhere between that house's driveway and the bridge, likely in the roadway. I mean, there'll be some logistics behind planning it, but we'll figure out some spots. So probably, I would guess probably 5 feet beneath the bottom of sediment of the river, whatever depth.
All right.
And
All right. Any other?
I think, did we need letters of support on this in short order? Is that?
Yeah, so Dan, how this works now is, provided everybody wants to move forward with it, this application is due on May 24th. It's an online application, and I will need a letter of match commitment from yourself, Dan, as the procurement officer. That will be signed by you. And then, yes, letters of support from the water commissioners would be great. And I can draft that letter and send it if you want to put it on letterhead. But maybe at a follow-up meeting, we can gather signatures. This meeting was simply to present the grant and to see if everybody's all for it, which it sounds like we are. Then yes, I'll be sending you some letters to sign.
And did you say that a letter from the selectmen would also benefit our?
Yeah, generally the more, like even conservation too, because we're helping clean up the salt marsh. So if we can get it from conservation and also the selectmen, that would be it would only help our chances of getting the funding.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
I can work on conservation, and I can talk to Joe about getting on the selectmen as well.
If you could, yeah, that would be fantastic. And seeing how we're first on the agenda for the next selectmen's meeting, maybe we can roll that into it and be done with it. That's all I got. Thank you very much.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Ross. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Russ.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So, Dan, how did you come across this opportunity on this grant?
Well, I had reached out to Russ because I saw an advertisement for the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant. So the town last year, it was right when COVID was starting, we were wrapping up our MVP grant through, I think it was through Cape Cod Commission. Once the town has an approved or goes through that process, they're eligible for funds. So I saw that and reached out to Russ to say, hey, are there, I was bouncing projects off of him, and he said, no, that one wouldn't work, but you may be able to use the Coastal Resiliency grant for this. And that was kind of how we got started on it, I guess.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think too, and I might have mentioned it to you, these grant opportunities, I think, are a great thing for the department, great thing for the town to pursue, especially with some of the projects like this that really get trumped by the Route 28 water main, right? Or painting a tank, something that's going to take priority that we should, I just want to try to pursue these projects through these grant mechanisms, I guess more than we have in the past to try to get
Yeah.
as much as we can. I mean, these are great opportunities, so.
Yeah, I'm all about getting projects done and saving some money. So, all right, shall we move on to water restrictions?
Yeah, so in the packet today was a notice from DEP, the Drought Advisory, notifying us that the Cape Cod Basin has been issued a level 1 or mild drought declaration. So I have been coordinating with really all the water suppliers that draw from the Monomoy lens. The thought being that we're all straws in the same glass and that our water restrictions should be consistent. If you're driving from one town to the next and you have varying and different water restrictions, it's going to cause the public to ask questions, right? Are these real? Do we really need to be in water restrictions? So the water suppliers, us, Brewster, Dennis, Chatham, Yarmouth was there, although they only had 2 out of 24 of their wells in the lens, in Orleans, to discuss that. We actually met this morning, and the thought amongst ourselves was to go, or to recommend we impose mandatory odd-even water restrictions to be effective May 1st. And the thought being, right now, our monitoring well is about 3 feet below where we were last year at this time. So the lens is replenished through the winter, through snow and rainfall, precipitation. But once we start to get into late spring, when that precipitation starts to evaporate, we don't get much recharge. So we're going into this peak season several feet below where we were last season. Now we're still hovering right above the 25th percentile. But thought being, if we go mandatory odd even now, we as a group would continue to monitor precipitation, and if the drought conditions worsen, we can dial that up and make it 1 or 2 days a week. And if we do get plentiful rain in the future, we could consider rolling it back to voluntary.
So Dan, you said this is a level 1 mild
Level
drought?
1, yeah.
All right. And any idea as to why they feel, or why we are 3 feet lower this year than last year? Is it because of the amount of people we have here on a more long-term basis?
It's really solely, I would say, over 90%, maybe 100%, solely just the lack of precipitation, right? So I was thinking about this the other day, and a good way to think about it, as we're going into town meeting, we'll probably see that there won't be a big ask for a snow and ice deficit, right? Because we had a mild winter, not a lot of snow, not a lot of precipitation. What that means in turn for us is that we're not going to have that recharge this spring. So I was thinking about what the offset is for snow and ice versus missed revenue due to water restrictions, but it's an exercise I don't have time for right now. But
Right.
no, it's really that lack of precipitation during our recharge period, which is really our October through April, May.
Okay. Any other questions for Dan, Alan, Judith?
Yeah, all I can think of, last year, we had rain every couple of days. This year let's go the other way, 3 or 4 days, 5 days, and there's no serious amount. So,
Well, it's going to rain the next few days, a little bit. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, and it's we really got to hope for rain, now, because once we get too much further into the season, anything that gets, put down is going to get instantly evaporated. So now's the time we need it and want it. So.
All right. Let's move on to
Well,
John Joseph. Dan?
If I could just ask the board to make a formal vote if the board is in favor of mandatory odd even.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the odd even watering as mandatory for the next coming months.
I'll
Is there a
second
second?
that.
All right, I'll take a vote by roll call. Alan?
Aye?
Judith?
Aye.
That's an aye for myself.
And just one more thing before we move on, if I may. We are also, as I mentioned, we met today. The water suppliers are also going to be putting together a campaign really of education with the intent of reaching out to the Chronicle and trying to get an article in the Times jointly as Monomoy Lens water suppliers to try to get a unanimous messaging out across our customer bases. So that should be
All right.
forthcoming.
Great. Thank you, Dan. All right, let's move on to 42 John Joseph Road. So we're looking for authorization to take down some already downed trees, it looks like, Dan?
Yeah, if I can share my screen, because I think the pictures in the packet might have cut off some of the actual box here. Bear with me. All right, if everyone can see the screen now.
Yep.
So
Oh, yeah.
the
Yep.
resident that lives at 42 John Joseph, just behind their fence, there was, you can see in the image on the screen, pine tree snapped in half. So we have a half of a stump standing. And then on the next, it's not letting me go to the next image. Bear with me 1 second. All right. Coming back up. 1 second. All right. If you can see the image on the screen there, you can see this is the top half of that tree in the red box that we were looking at just a moment ago. And then we have this last one here, which is laying down kind of, I mean, it is an ugly tree. So given that, you know, the 2/3 of the limbs are on the ground and there really isn't any risk of property damage, it would be my recommendation to the board to allow them to take care of that brush. But I would leave it to you for determination.
All right, thanks, Dan. What's the feeling from the board?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right. All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Alan?
Aye?
Judith?
Aye.
And it's an aye for myself, so they're good to go.
Excellent.
All right, Dan, superintendent's report.
All right, I have a handful of things I want to touch base on. I'll try to be quick. So the generator for Hardin Lane, the sewer pump station, the board had voted to transfer the generator from water to our surplus generator for the value of that generator to the sewer enterprise for the purpose of putting it in Hardin Lane for that pump station. Just an update on that. I did finally get a preliminary sketch drafted up, and I have contacted the gas company to have them extend the gas main down Hardin Lane to the pump station. It is about 120 to 130 feet from where the gas main stops to where the generator would be. So that is in process. I'm actually going out this afternoon with Scott to look at the siting of the generator and to try to get the plan to get the conduits installed while the contractor's out there working, so everything can be done in casting concrete and not done after the fact. So also on wastewater, as you may recall, we were negotiating with Chatham with respect to the IMA and the cost sharing for the operation of the treatment plant for Chatham and the Harwich collection system operations. So one of the things that the IMA didn't clearly identify was that our 23% cost share for Chatham's contract operations encompassed both their treatment and their collection system. So I requested a breakdown from Weston and Sampson and Chatham of the $621,000 they spend on contract operations. How much of that is for the treatment plant and how much of that is for the collection system? Because we're only supposed to be paying for the collection system. So since our last meeting, I did receive that breakdown. The breakdown is about 60-40. So ultimately what that means is we will see a net reduction in our FY22 wastewater operating budget of about $50,000. So the budget that was presented to Selectmen, Finance Committee, and the Water Wastewater Commission, initially those numbers were still in flux. This is a solidification of one of those numbers, resulting in a $50,000 reduction in the budget. So that can be amended on town meeting floor next weekend to bring that into effect. I also did receive a preliminary draft scope for the operation of Harwich's collection system. Right now, the budget number that they have provided fits within what we had carried. The one detail that still needs to be worked out is that DEP requires daily inspections for pump stations with a design flow of 100,000 gallons per day or greater. Now, at face value, you say, well, we're not even going to generate 100,000 gallons in East Harwich yet with the customers we have, so that shouldn't be a problem. However, the pump stations are designed to handle build-out flows, and the 4 large stations are designed for a flow over 100,000 gallons per day. So one of the things I want to do now is reach out to DEP and see if we can get some relief on the daily inspection requirement, where we will only generate at full build-out approximately, I think it was 80,000 gallons with the existing customer base, divided by really 4 pump stations. So we really will be operating significantly under the 100,000 gallons per day. So we may be able to get relief, which could bring back, scale back the budget. If they don't give us relief, the budget figure they provided may go up. So we're still working on that. But I don't believe that in either case, it will be problematic. I don't think we're talking big dollars in either direction.
Okay.
So going further, also had several meetings recently with Chatham GHD, who manages Chatham's sewer design. They're overseeing their construction project, as well as myself and our SCADA integrator, and we begin discussing the connection between the Harwich SCADA system and the Chatham SCADA system at their treatment plant, for them to be able to see and interact with the Harwich sewer pump stations. So we still have some work to go on that, but we are in process and in coordination at this point. The Chatham project, their collection system and pump station behind the corner store there, they have provided us with an update, I believe it was yesterday, that they're anticipating substantial completion for their project in June. So we have our construction contracts showing also substantial completion in June and July. So as far as timing goes, it looks like things are going to work out. Another Chatham conversation, but on the water side, this has been a conversation going back and forth between myself and Chatham Water Department for a couple of years now, with respect to the interconnection between Harwich and Chatham's water systems on Route 28. There is an existing connection on 28 that is in a concrete vault that has a water meter and some valves in it. I don't believe it's ever been used, and Chatham was coming to us really because they have a lot of shallow wells, so they get impacted much greater through these drought situations. So they're looking to really reinforce our interconnection. So through that process, we've worked out a preliminary design. They've provided us with a memo. I plan on sitting down, reviewing that, and providing comments. But ultimately, the reason we're doing this is, if you think about our two water systems, we both have storage tanks and pumps running. Our pumps pump at different volumes. Our storage tanks are at different heights, right? So if we open the connection between our systems, depending on who's pumping or who's not, the water could go one way or another without a check valve or without a pump in line. So one way that we can rectify that and ensure that water only goes one way would be from pumping from hydrant to hydrant. So there's I believe it's a 5-gate and 2 hydrant setup that we're talking about right now, that we would be able to sit a tow behind pump in between the 2 hydrants and then connect and pump from the Harwich system into the Chatham system if they needed water in an emergency situation. So really just kind of wanted to introduce you to that, and there'll be more coming, but just that's kind of been on the back burner as well.
Okay.
The land acquisition grant through the DRI funds, I did speak with KP Law, the town's legal counsel, and they are doing, starting the initial kind of required or mandatory due diligence that we need to do to acquire those properties. So they've started that work. And another update, sewer CAD model is currently underway. The next step in that process is to review the pump station locations. So GHD, we were on the selectmen's meeting this past Tuesday to discuss next steps with them. And the thought being that we would hold an independent meeting to go through, because there's about 30 to 35 pump stations, that would intend to pull up on Google Maps and really to get the board's blessing prior to running the model. Another update with respect to sewer, the CWMP revisions. We've also been talking with GHD to strategize about that, and the plan right now is to set up a call and have a meeting with MIPA to discuss what really what we're looking to amend and any requirements that may be associated with those, at which point we would then source public input as well as to really the specifics. So we know we want to look at IA systems, right? We can tell MIPA that, and then when we get into the public, we can get into the IA discussion as to what does Harwich want to do with IA systems, or with zoning, or any other topic for discussion. Once we get MIPA's input and public input, the thought is then that GHD, knowing what we would have to do, could prepare a scope of service, scope and fee proposal to actually move forward with the revisions. So this is really a preliminary step to get to the final step. Also, you may recall from months ago now at this point that we've been working to upgrade our element software, the work order software. That also required an upgrade to our GIS server and an upgrade of our Esri GIS software. So we just got word this past week that the server's online, been online, and now we have the Esri GIS software installed and deployed. We have a closeout meeting for that component tomorrow, and then we'll be moving to actually deploying elements in the new work order system. So this is all the backbone for it. So we're getting closer to the finish line. And I think those are all my notes. Oh, one more thing, sorry. April 15th, a couple weeks ago, I was asked to do a community water forum for a sustainable practices group. So there is a YouTube video. It was an hour-long presentation I gave on drinking water regulations, Safe Drinking Water Act, and things like that. So just so you guys know that is out there, I'll share the link if you care to watch it.
I watched half. It was great. Good job.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Got good feedback. So
Yeah, could you send me that link? Yeah, I would like to see it.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, I also.
I just pulled the link up today. I didn't. She had told me she was going to email me a copy, but I didn't receive it yet, so I was able to find it.
Are you all set with your superintendent's report?
That will be it for now. Yes.
Okay. So just to touch base on that, two things I'd like to add to the agenda for our next meeting is more information about the Harwich SCADA system and the Chatham SCADA system.
hmm
And you said you were going to give us more information on the Chatham Harwich water connection.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Has everyone completed the ethics training? Do you know?
I believe that's yes.
Yeah. Okay. And what was the other thing? Any update on Periwinkle, the house at the bottom of the hill there?
House at the bottom of the hill.
The water
As
break we
far-
had?
The water break we had, we went out. The guys did go out and flush. Trying to think of when it was. It was in between freezing temperatures and now because there was still some cloudy water complaints. They haven't been out to do test pits, but we haven't had any concerns or any complaints since we went out and did that last flush.
Do you know if DPW cleaned that water drain? That
I do not, and I will follow up on that.
okay.
I know we called when that was brought to our attention, but I will
Yeah,
I'll follow up on that.
great. Alan, Judith, anything for the superintendent's report, commissioner's report?
No,
I'm good.
All right. Next meeting to be scheduled.
May the 6th.
That's only 1 week, Alan. Do you want to do 1 week or 2 weeks?
I was just thinking town meeting's coming up. Was town meeting the 18th?
Oh, the 8th. Yeah,
8th.
yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah. If you want to meet on the 6th, sure.
I'm just asking. I mean,
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I think it's a good idea to meet before town meeting.
yeah,
We can-
unless you want to do it the 13th,
No, I think you're right. I think we should meet before town meeting. It's a good idea.
definitely.
Judith, can you do the 6th?
Yeah, could we do it at 2 o'clock instead of
That's
1
fine.
or at 1:30? I have a thing that ends at 1, but I know I'm going to need a break.
Yeah, 1:30 if that works.
Yeah, that would be great.
Alan, is that good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, yeah. So 1:30 on the 6th?
Yes.
Okay.
And would the board like to, if you'd like, I could put together maybe a couple bullets for each article that we have.
Sure.
Yep.
Go through
Yep.
a refresher. Anyone in the public following along that wants to get some info on our articles, we could touch on those. I think by the 6th,
Yeah.
hopefully we would have better information on the rules and regs, publication information as
Yep.
well.
Suppose we also schedule a meeting like on the 17th, just in case.
I am actually on vacation coming back, I believe, on the 18th,
Oh,
flying back in on the 17th.
okay, all right. Yeah,
When do you leave for vacation, Dan? Or when would the last day that we could have a tentative meeting if something urgent comes up about the town meeting?
Yeah, I'm flying out the 13th, so Thursday, and coming back Monday.
Maybe that Wednesday? Just
That's fine with me.
a pencil on the everybody's calendar?
Yeah,
Sure. Is that okay?
yeah.
Does that work, Alan?
Yeah, it should, yes, it does. I think it's a great idea, and I'm just thinking if something came up as far as town meeting, that we would have that chance to address anything.
Right.
You know?
Then are we good with 1 o'clock for the May 12th?
Yeah, I'm wide open that day if you want to do it in the morning. Whatever works for your
Whatever works for you.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I mean,
Alan.
Dan?
I mean,
No, and is it the board's intent still, is there still want to meet if there isn't any response to
Yeah.
town meeting?
We don't have anything yet. Let's just cancel the meeting.
Yeah, let's just put something down, and if we don't need to meet, then we don't need to meet.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. All right. So right now,
do you want to just put down like 9 in the morning? Or does that work for your schedule, Gary?
Yeah, I'll make it work. That's fine.
that's
That's
on the
fine.
12th. That's
On
the
the 12th.
12th? Yeah,
Yep.
all right.
Oh, the 12th, Wednesday.
All right, does that work?
All right. And then
Sure.
on the 6th is what time? 1:30?
1:30. Yep.
1:30. All right. And actually, we'll know better by the 6th whether we need the 12th. So,
Right.
Yeah.
all right.
All right.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Sam? Yeah. Okay.
Just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I'll take a vote by roll call. Alan?
All right.
Judith?
Aye.
And it's an aye for myself. Thank you very much, and everyone have a good day.
Yes, you too.
guys too.
Have a good week.
Thanks.
Bye.